Yo, what's up, guys? It's King Sean here, and Dan Quinn's introductory press conference has just concluded, and I am here to break it down. I'll give you guys, well, my instant reaction to it, my thoughts to it, and some important quotes to it. But before we get into that, make sure y'all leave a like down below, subscribe, turn on notifications on the road to 3K subs. So if you could hit that sub button, I'd really appreciate it. And with that out of the way, let's get straight into the video. All right. So now I want to give a brief summary of this press conference. This first off, my instant reaction to this press conference at least. This was a really good press conference. I mean, this went on for more than an hour. First of all, 57 minutes exactly, I'm pretty sure. So a little less than an hour, but still, it was a long, lengthy press conference, but it was a really good one. I loved everything, well, almost everything Dan Quinn said. There was like one or two things that was a bit questionable. Had It gave me some PTSD about Ron Rivera, but overall, it was a super good. He's just Dan Quinn. I see why he got, I see why Josh Harris and Adam Peters chose him for the head coaching job. He's an amazing speaker. He answered every single question up front, and clearly. He answered every single question clearly and up front. Something that Ron Rivera didn't really do. Anytime he answered questions, he wasn't really clear about them. They were very repetitive. His answers were very repetitive, and that's one thing I admire about Dan Quinn is that his answers are not repetitive. He gave very clear answers, and yeah, I mean overall the press conference was really good. Let's go over some quotes that I have down in my notes. First off, Josh Harris started off by saying, well, he started off obviously by giving, thanks to Adam Peters and Dan Quinn for choosing the Commanders. He also said that Dan Quinn, and by the way, we announced the hirings of Cliff Kingsbury last night, as well as Joe Witt Jr. as our offensive and defensive coordinators. Dan Quinn started off by saying early in the press conference that Dan Quinn has a few more tricks up his sleeve when it comes to building his staff. So, hey, Al Harris to DC, would he take a lateral role? Maybe. I mean, he said that wherever Dan Quinn goes, he gonna follow him. So maybe he becomes our DB's coach, maybe assistant head coach. I don't know. We'll see. But if we were to get Al Harris, that would be a huge, huge hire for us and Dan Quinn for his staff. Let's see here. One of the things Dan Quinn started off by saying is, nothing I enjoy more than doing hard S word with good people. We're keeping it friendly, family friendly here, people. But yeah, he did say that. I'm not gonna lie. That quote got me fired up, man. His whole press conference got me fired up. Really, I really, really enjoyed it. So I think like 10,000 to 11,000 people were in that press conference on YouTube. They were streaming it on YouTube and Twitter. But on YouTube, there was a lot of people on that press conference stream, which is really good to see. Let me see what other notes I got on here. Quinn said he felt he spread himself too thin during his days in Atlanta. Said he delegated more last couple years in Dallas. Feels he learned that lesson. So yeah, in Atlanta he wasn't the greatest. I mean, he brought them to the Super Bowl. And then it's the 7-year anniversary actually of 28-3 Super Bowl 51. Heartbreaker for the Falcons there, but he's learned his lessons from his Falcon days. Some other things Quinn said was one desire for head coach job this offseason compared to past two. When this one, I was like, please call. That this franchise has a historic mark. Once they had ownership, general manager, organization, everything checked. It was that light flashing that said, this is the moment. This is the one. So yeah, this job was pretty much the one for him. He wanted to get another chance at a head coaching job. Obviously, with the Falcons, it didn't go too well, so he wanted to get another chance, and he learned a lot from his Falcons day in these past 3 years with the Cowboys. So I'm rooting for Dan Quinn. I really am. I mean, that press conference got me rooting for him even more. I'm really starting to like this hire and the staff he's building. I mean, with Cliff Kingsbury, excellent hire. Joe Witt Jr., excellent hire. Oh, and another thing about Joe Witt Jr. Dan Quinn actually said that Joe Witt Jr. will be calling the plays in DC, which I personally don't mind. I kind of wish that Dan Quinn would start off as the guy who was calling the plays, and then later on you could go to Joe Witt Jr., but I don't mind it at all. I think Joe Witt Jr.'s defense will be eerily similar to Dan Quinn's defense, so I got no problem with that at all. Quinn said, building trust takes time, but I can't wait to start earning it. So, yeah, of course, building trust takes time. But he going to earn that trust. He going to earn that trust. He's starting to earn a lot of respect from me and a lot of other Commanders fans. Josh Harris says the future of Washington football is bright. I really hope so. It is looking that way, especially with our new ownership. Adam Peters, phenomenal GM. Dan Quinn, he's the safe hire. The guy not everyone wanted, but I really hope it works out. I really do with Dan Quinn. Quinn said having an aligned vision goes deeper than scheme. It's more about the play style and how to feature players in that style. It's one of the things he loves about coaching. He wants to help players to elevate their talent and put them in a position to succeed. So, yeah, Harris, and also another quote from Harris. Not Harris, Quinn. He basically said that if a player struggles on that play, so like a certain defensive play call, if he struggles on that play, don't go back to it, which I absolutely love. That's something Jack Del Rio did. Jack Del Rio did not put his players in the right position to succeed. And I have no doubt in my mind that Dan Quinn will do what Jack Rio failed to do. So I really like that Dan Quinn said those two things. It gives me a lot more faith in our defense this next season. Dan Quinn also said that he basically confirmed that Eric Bieniemy will not be here next year. This was expected, obviously, with us hiring Cliff Kingsbury. There was just really no spot for Eric Bieniemy, so we'll see where he goes next. I think he'll just go back to the Chiefs, maybe taking up an offensive assistant role, maybe go back to being their offensive coordinator, or he goes elsewhere. We'll see with EB. The full quote here was, Eric Bieniemy will not be a part of the Commanders coaching staff going forward, Dan Quinn said. Quinn said, I wish him nothing but the best. So, yeah, obviously, but, EB, he was not good. He just wasn't. His play calls, most of the times, they were pretty bad, and he didn't put his best players in the best position to succeed in his offense. What else we got here? Dan Quinn, he was asked about if this was going to be a rebuild. He says he won't use the word rebuild. He says he'll use the word recalibrate, which I think is the perfect word. To be honest, this will not be a rebuild. It's not going to take like 4 to 5 years, 3 to 5 years, like Ron Rivera preached in his introductory press conference. It's not going to take as long as people expect it to be. I think it'll probably take like a year or two, maybe 3, but I feel like it'll take max like 2 years, in my opinion. Dan Quinn sees the identity of this team being explosive and physical. Love to hear that. Obviously, he worked with a lot of those players in Dallas and Atlanta. Obviously, we got Vic Beasley, Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland, and a lot of other guys. Dorrance Armstrong, a lot of other guys as well. So, I like to hear that. What else we got? Dan Quinn said, you have to evolve. It does have to change during that time of reflection. The other thing I did during that time was compare my defenses, coming into Dallas. The system we put together will be similar to the system we'll have here. So, yeah, he learned a lot, in Dallas as their defensive coordinator, stepping away from being head coach. And the Dallas defense, they were a top 10 defense in every year he was with them from 2021 to 2023. They had a very good defense. If you just ignore them under the bright lights, their defense was a top defense. That defense was elite. So I have no doubt in my mind that our defense will be way better next season. Quinn said, and this is the quote I was referring to earlier, if a player has to overthink it, it's not the right call, which I love. If the player just ain't feeling the play, if they do bad on the play, if they got to overthink it, just don't go with that call again until they get used to it, until they actually feel comfortable with that play. So that's that. Quinn is excited to get to work with his new players. We're going to compete our A-words off together. He also mentioned that he liked the interior defensive line. That includes Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Fedarian Mathis. Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, they had very good seasons in 2022. They were a bit underwhelming this past season, though. And yeah, that's about it. And like I said, Dan Quinn said Joe Witt will call plays on defense. So overall, great press conference. One thing, and this is the part that I didn't really like. Quinn did say that we have to, I'm pretty sure it was something like, be where your feet are, which is something that Ron Rivera said and Eric Bieniemy said in their introductory press conference, which does give me a little bit PTSD from them. But it is what it is. I don't think Dan Quinn is eerily similar to Ron Rivera at all. Just hearing his press conference, he's not the same as Ron Rivera at all. So, very good press conference overall. I'm excited to see the team Dan Quinn is going to build. I'm excited to see the team Adam Peters is going to build. So, that is all for today's video. Hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like down below, subscribe, turn on notifications. On the road to 3K subs, like I said, so if you could hit that sub button, I'd really appreciate it. And other than that, it's been King Sean, and I'm out. Peace.